Welcome to another episode of Red and Black, where your conservatism is not just the color that you're used to. I'm Lenny McAllister, and like you, I am joining with conservatives everywhere to sue every possible social media platform that there is. And this should get really interesting because we heard about this lawsuit coming. I want to talk about it. So with that said, I have no jokes because Jeff has no internet connection and Kira has no time. And Dr. Metzler is really sick of dealing with the little people. So I'm just going to get through these introductions very quickly. The lady down there that just got off of national network, I won't mention who it is because Kira will do it herself. Kira Davis, I know that you're famous. Talk about how famous you are, Kira.
Fox News. I'm so famous that I did a whole 5-minute segment with Mark Stein tonight on Fox News Primetime. No, I had a good time. Every now and then Fox News will call me in and let me talk to the people on the airwaves, and I always have a good time. But tonight was really cool because I've never had the chance to talk to Mark Stein personally before, and I'm a huge fan of his. I always think he was like the best villain for Rush. And Rush was on my bucket list too. Unfortunately, that's obviously never going to happen, but it was a pleasure to talk to Mark tonight. We talked about creepy porn lawyers.
Who wants to follow that up? Jeff, I'll let you follow that up because my little stick with the man with the hat down below, you kind of blew up because you don't have a freaking hat on. So you get to go next after that. Proceed.
Hey, I forgot it. I left it at home. I was on the road. Nice 3.5 hour drive. I enjoyed it. And I'm here in Dallas, and I'm ready for CPAC. So it's going to be lit.
Nice.
It's going to be lit without a hat. So speaking of being lit and being famous, Dr. Metzler, tell us about the time when you discovered Mark Stein, because I know you must have been there when it happened.
Yeah, actually, I was there. We were having beer out of a Stein.
It's true. A lot of people don't know, but yeah, one of Chris's many talents is he's actually a recruiter for national television and radio. He was one of the first people to recognize the talent of Mark Stein. So he actually invented the entertainment industry.
And there you go.
But that also doesn't explain why the hell he's hanging out with us once a week. That kind of puts your whole that there's a good news and a bad news to this, man. So just don't brag on yourself too much.
Not
that out there. But I'm going to actually go to you first because you are the Red and Black legal analyst / only attorney we have, so you have no other choice about this. The former president, number 45, sued Facebook and others over this whole shindig with First Amendment rights and everything else when it comes to him and this ongoing battle. I want you to talk about this a little bit because there are people that are say he'll never win, but I want to talk initially not only about the legal case, Dr. M, but what a win is when you're Donald Trump when it comes to this lawsuit, because they're defining win in a way that they probably should.
Yeah, I think, and the win here is going to be in the court of public opinion. That's where the win's going to go. Look, we understand that he understands, and his lawyers understand that from a strictly legal standpoint, there is no case here. And the reason there is no case is because the Constitution is clear. Congress shall not make any law restricting free speech. But that's not the point here. That's not the point. The point is what 45 does is he raises the issue of censorship. He is able then to influence political change relative to antitrust relations, and he's pretty much able to drag them through the mud. This will be, and is already starting to be, a win in the court of public opinion. And the thing I would say, though, is the Facebook lawyers have already come out and have said, well, his case should be dismissed because he has not filed in a case of competent jurisdiction. Sit your ass down somewhere. You don't even know what that means. Just shut the hell up. That's what we have right here.
That's expert legal opinion from Dr.
Right, that's right.
Shut the hell up.
Just shut the hell up, because you don't know what you're talking about. And, if you don't know what you're talking about, Michael Avenatti, I thought you said that it would be Trump who ends up in jail. Yeah. Orange, Orange is the new Avenatti.
Kira, you just got done talking about this. So I know it's fresh on the top of your mind. And you got the slick glasses on this week. So you look smart. Go ahead.
I look smart, and that's the only qualification you need in this industry. Trust me. No,
Well, the glasses make you a Facebook attorney. Your brain makes you smart.
Oh,
there you go.
Well, I agree with Doc here, and I think that the point is my limited knowledge of the law. I do believe that Trump technically doesn't have a case, but also Trump knows that, and any lawyer worth their salt already has informed him of this. Let's keep in mind, adding to what Chris just said about the court of public opinion, let's also keep in mind that Trump has launched his own social media platform this past week called Getter, which I don't know how you read that name without hearing label like Larry the Cable Guy in your mind, like Getter. But whatever, that's the name of the social media app. So maybe there's a little bit of business savvy in here too. You're poking some holes in the competition, while at the same time you are ginning up that court of public opinion and letting people know that, hey, this is actually a serious topic. And it really is. You have to, let's put all of the personalities aside here. What we have seen is a president of the United States be deplatformed from social media. It's unheard of, and it's frightening, frankly. And I think more people need to be talking about this as we move into the 2022 elections, because surely there will be some people running for election that are going to want to run on this issue.
Jeff, what do you think? I mean, you're not as smart as they are because you don't have glasses on, and you screwed up my stick because you don't have a hat on, but I'm sure you still have an opinion on all this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know about all the legalities of it, but it's kind of obvious that the suit will go nowhere. But I think this is just more of a way for Trump to keep it out there, keep it out in the news so that people are still paying attention to it, and to continue to drum up, public support for advocating against censorship. So this lawsuit isn't going to go anywhere, but that doesn't mean that the battle isn't going to go anywhere. This is going to come to a head, and I think it's going to come to a head sooner rather than later. I mean, we do see Facebook and Twitter acting as publishers, even though they say that they're not. And, even with the blatant propaganda that Facebook was doing with that whole warning thing that Kira was talking about, there's just no way. It seems like they're becoming drunk on power. They're becoming drunk with power, and at some point, either they're going to get slapped down or they're just going to continue to grow stronger. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
Well, they're not allowed to get drunk on anything without me saying I digress. So that's, first of all, it's breaking the law. Second of all, we got to tell people that, like Jeff said, he's down at CPAC, so we appreciate you dealing with all the technical issues, because everybody and their grandmother's trying to get on the internet right now because Lord knows everybody wants to talk about this case. Third, I want to remind everybody, please stop saying that we don't really know the legal aspect of this, because people are tuning in because they think we know the legal aspect of this.
Well, they know Chris knows the legal aspect, and the rest of us just are his sidekicks.
That's true.
No, but we do know the legal aspect of it. We also know the court of opinion and the business aspect of it, because this is not. We know it's not going to be won in a court of law. We get it, and keep in mind, Governor DeSantis has his own battle in the state of Florida, where he, in fact, passed a law prohibiting shadow banning, etc., which was then put on hold by the court here in Florida. So, it's a much larger issue. And that's the importance of this lawsuit. Look, sometimes you have to bring a lawsuit in the courts. Now, I've heard some people say, well, no, his lawyers are going to be disbarred because it's frivolous. It is not frivolous. There is no question that this is not frivolous. They're like, well, and Giuliani is going to be, shut up. Just stop talking. There's nothing frivolous about it. They do have a good faith belief here. The court can do whatever it wants. However, we have to understand that this is won in many courts. And that is the beauty of what both 45 and DeSantis are doing here. So we look at it from the larger aspect.
You know, and it's an interesting point. And Jeff, I'm going to go back to you before I go to Kira. You know, it's amazing how people not only define when it comes to stuff like this, but how short term they think of all this. You know, if you're trying to win the future, you don't necessarily give a flip about what happens over the next 7 days. You're trying to lay a groundwork for what the next 6 to 12 months is going to be. And Kara brought up a good point, Jeff. If you're looking at 2022, a lawsuit that you might lose before we even get to the holiday season in 2021 can still help you a year down the road.
Yeah, and that's what I meant when I was saying keeping it in the public eye, because this is something that could influence the election in 2022 and in 2024. I actually think that's one of the reasons why Florida's legislature and Governor Ron DeSantis did what they did as far as taking action against these companies. Again, I mean, that might not hold up in court, but like you said, it's keeping it in the public eye. And the more that they can convince the American public that, or at least show them what Facebook and Twitter are doing, the more likely it is that it's going to make the other side look bad, because these people are not biased in favor of conservatives. They're biased in favor of people on the left. And you've got people on the left in these positions of power essentially playing God and determining what we're able to see, what we're able to say, the content that we consume. I think there's a growing belief, even among people on the left, that these companies just have way too much power.
Now, interesting. Let me go to you, Kira, on something as far as public perception and keeping in the public eye. We weren't talking about crime all that much this time last year. We're talking about crime one heck of a lot now. And now we see President Biden in Chicago with Mayor Lightfoot talking about crime, which, number one, look, I don't know who gives the Democrats strategy on stuff like this, but if there's one city you do not mention as a Democrat when it comes to high crime to try to keep conservatives quiet, it's the C word. Where does he go? He runs to that place and almost gives them gold. And I have to imagine that's how it's going to play out.
How do you run to Chicago without Barack Obama? You know what I'm saying? Like,
just saw it, apparently.
Screwed. It already, this tells me that the administration is in chaos. And I feel like this is a running theme on this show. Like, Lenny, you asked about, like, what's Biden doing here? And I go, there's chaos. This is a sign of chaos in the administration. I'll give it to Biden.
Oops.
I'll give it to Obama. I didn't realize until I saw Biden and really what is probably most likely his handlers, who are leftovers from the administration. I never realized how well Obama was able to package the chaos so that we didn't notice, like, when the economy was crashing, we were still so enthralled with Obama that we elected him for another term. But Biden does not seem to be able to get a handle on this. And the people behind him do not seem to be able to get a handle on this. This is utter chaos. I don't know anything about managing a presidential team. And even I would have said, dude, if you're going to go to Chicago and give the right-wing media all this fodder to work with, take the first and only black president with you, dude. That's his home. You take that guy, you run him up and down the streets, you know. That tells me Obama has no interest in being there. That tells me Obama has no interest in taking ownership, even though he's out of office, having to take ownership for what's happening in Chicago, which is an ongoing failure of Democrat policy. I just that said a lot to me.
Well, hold on, because I'm going through my phone right now, And there's a point in this program where you're supposed to say that it's because Biden's not really there and he's lost his fastball.
I said that hit the people behind him. It's really in Obama leftovers. And I'm sorry that always sounds like conspiracy to you, Lenny, but it's not conspiracy.
I said it was in the script.
Judgmental. You're always being super judgmental. But I see you roll your eyes when I say that. I'm being dead serious. I do not think Joe Biden is the actual president of the United States. He's not in charge. He tells us every time he gets in front of a mic that he's not in charge. He begs for help. He says he's getting in trouble. Someone's going to get him in trouble. Someone's going to punish him. He tells us this every single time. I mean, the proof is right there, Lenny.
Well, at least she's not saying that Soros is in charge.
Yeah, but here's the worst part. He is not in charge of being president, and Kamala is not in charge of being vice president. So what the heck? I mean,
in one fell swoop.
That's why it's chaos. That's why everything's chaos.
In her office, folk leaking information about Michelle Fontroy and Simone and all of that. And I'm sorry, Kamala, when you had that dinner at the White House, girl, why are you sitting among the guests? You are the vice president. Your seat is at the head of the table. Did you ever see Vice President Pence sitting among the crowd? And why you got the two little black people on either side? Girl, what is wrong with you?
I don't think she has like a choice. I look, if her tenure in California is any indication, she's probably not well liked there. She wasn't well liked here. I mean, and I'm not just saying that as a conservative who isn't going to like her anyway, but when she was in office, you'll be hard pressed to find anyone who ever worked with Kamala who actually really liked her. So already, and then did you see that picture, like when Biden was announcing, what was he making announce? She was like in the background, like,
yeah.
Hey guys,
like, hi, I'm here.
Did you guys ever?
There's a reason that Politico report came out.
You all are first. I'm gonna let Jeff speak, but I'm letting you know. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna let Jeff speak, but I'm letting you both know you're making him very uncomfortable talking about his friend. So just keep that in mind.
Oh,
I digress.
Well, there's a reason why Politico wrote that report. Yeah, there's a reason why Politico put out that report with all those people talking about how that work environment is so toxic. I think they're just blinded and intimidated by her beauty, but nonetheless, she should be able to handle that. I mean, you've got people who have already quit. I mean, it's like 6 months in, and it's just being shown that she can't handle it. Now, much of the blame went to her chief of staff, but again, the buck stops where it stops at her, because she is the head of her organization. So if there's a toxic work environment and people feel like they're being shat on and they can't come up with ideas and they're not being treated well, none of this is a surprise. And I remember kind of hearing that this was the case when she was district attorney. So that's kind of scary, because if Biden steps down before his first term is over, which I still think he's going to do, what's the White House going to look like with her horrible managerial style? You remember how they were freaking out over Trump and people leaving and people complaining about how he ran things. I know he had his issues, but Kamala's, I don't think that Trump's environment was toxic. I think it was just chaotic. With Kamala Harris, I think it's both.
Well, what the White House will look like, y'all need to keep this in mind. This is what'll happen. Kamala gets the presidency, and guess who's coming to the vice presidency? Because that's an appointment, right? Now that's not an election situation. That's somebody you appoint. Guess who that's going to be? Unless we get rid of him. Gavin Newsom. California is coming to the White House. Help us call him, folks.
Yeah, because see here, and here's the thing. As somebody who has actually assisted presidential teams, first of all, as it relates to Kamala,
hold your thought. Did you just throw shade at the three of us?
No. I'm just
okay. I just want to make sure.
Don't be so sensitive. God.
I know, right?
Go ahead.
But here's what I'm saying. she got the B team, actually the F team from the beginning. Do you think if Sarah Palin got that team, she would have taken it? She would have said, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that. But she was so groveling for that position that she took that team. Keep in mind, her presidential campaign tanked for exactly the same reason. Her sister and Michelle Fontroy. So now and Michelle is sitting on all these requests. She's the gatekeeper. Nothing is getting done. That place is leaking like a sieve. And she has absolutely no control. So Biden is whispering. She's in the back. So what's going on?
Let me ask this question to you, Chris, and I'll ask the other two events going into it as well. Is what is going on is you're already starting to see people in the media and perhaps in the political scene trying to tank Harris 2024 and say, look, we've seen enough. This can't be the person that runs if Biden doesn't run for another term. We got to make sure she is not part of being in the mix 3 years from now. What we're starting to see?
Well, and that is exactly right. But she put herself in that position. Number one, she should not have taken the staff that she was given. That's number one. She should have said, no, I don't want these folks. That's a deal breaker. Number one. Number two, she was so groveling for that position because she felt that it would be historic that she's like, okay, whatever y'all, look, you give me the border and voting rights, I can do nothing about that. I am going to be a failure. So the Democrats themselves are saying, oh, child, please, this is not going to work. Y'all need to get her up out of here, which is why I said from the beginning, y'all go get a black woman. You should have put Auntie Val up in there. Now that's a black woman.
Part of that is, though, and Jeff, Chris brings up a point, but here's the problem. If you have Val Demings in there, that's a strong leader that has this contrast to what Kira's been talking about with this, back and forth wishy-washiness that Biden has been projecting. And Jeff, I mean, people were even criticizing his move to take the troops out of Afghanistan is that really strong American leadership? You couldn't have Val Demings sitting there as a VP with that going on in the presidential role 6 months in, with people already doubting, does he have the endurance? Does he have the capabilities? How much of his fastball has he lost? And how many gaps are we going to go through per week?
I mean, I think if that would have happened, people would be pressuring him to step down even sooner because she would stand out. I mean, she would stand out as a strong leader. Kamala Harris doesn't stand out like that. I mean, again, it's why she didn't do well during the primaries. She just doesn't have that je ne sais quoi, right? I mean, Val Demings might have something like that. And as far as Afghanistan goes, yeah, I mean, any president who's going to pull troops out, we're going to be criticized by the neocons and their friends in the Democratic Party who pretend to not be neocons, but they really are when it comes to foreign policy. But I think that we just see this administration floundering and continuing to flounder and not actually being able to address certain issues that are coming up. Some of it's not their fault. I mean, as far as Congress goes, they can't get much through because they don't have a big enough majority. And you've got Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. So they're not going to be able to get through a lot of the radical stuff that they want to get through. But even so, it's still going to make him look as weak as he is performing. I mean, I wrote an article a while ago saying Joe Biden is already a lame duck president. They can't do anything.
And Karen, speaking of Biden, I want to go back to the whole Chicago situation because, when you think about this, it's not a matter of showing from a Biden perspective that, yeah, I'm on top of the crime situation in Chicago. If anything, it's almost like a reminder to people that, okay, crime is spiking. People in big cities are responding to this, and they're not happy with the Democratic leadership that's there, whether it's New York City, and we talked about the primary race previous to this, or what's going on in Chicago now. This is not a symbol of strength for him. This is almost like a sign of, this is your frustration, and this is how it's spilling out in the streets.
It's exactly what happened with Kamala when we sent her down to the border finally, right? and then she didn't go to the border. She went like close to the border, but that only was because Trump was going to the border. So it looked like a move of desperation. And this is the same thing. This is catch up, right? This is not being on top. This is not leading. This is leading from behind. Now they're trying to play catch up. I do believe it's because the powers that be, including the Bidens, really believed, and I think for good reason, that the media would be enough to cover for all of the BS that they were going to pull. That it's this idea, and I think every socialist has this idea, that if Americans can just be calm long enough and be quiet long enough and just put up with the tough part long enough, that they will eventually come to realize that all of these policies are good for them, and they'll realize that this stuff does work, but you just got to give it some time to work. I believe wholeheartedly that for the most part is a lot of the philosophy that rules the current Democrat Party. I mean, besides just the typical corruption that you find in both parties, but I do believe that ideologically speaking, that's what drives them. So they really thought, because they really pulled one over good during the 2020 elections, that the media was going to be enough to cover up all of these failures until the economy and the country had time to catch up to their brilliance. And it's the opposite. And that's because of COVID. They didn't understand that COVID was not just about keeping people locked down, that COVID was actually about waking a lot of people up to what they've given up to the government and to the pain that they've experienced. They haven't had all of the shiny stuff we haven't had that to keep us distracted from all of the other pain that's happening. So it does look weak, because it is weak, because they have been caught flat-footed. The media is not enough. It's good, but it's not good enough to keep Americans from feeling the pain that they're causing.
Dr. Metzler, I mean, this is a time-tested, policy issue that drives people to the polls. It's, can you be employed and can you be safe? Them showing that they're having a hard time keeping you safe in your cities is not good going into 2022. I don't care what race you're in and where you're trying to go.
No, it's a complete disaster. When he talks about crime, he invites the Baltimore mayor to the White House to talk about crime. Do you know how many folk are killed in Baltimore every minute? He invites him, then he goes and runs to Lightfoot. Are you out of your mind? I think the answer is yes. Because from the standpoint of understanding, look, as Jeff said, legislatively, there is not a lot that you're going to be able to do. So why even waste time on that? It's like all this foolishness about the voter ID laws and they're going to sue. Look, these are the rules, okay? Get your people to follow the rules. That's how you're going to win. You can sit there and complain and sue. Oh, it's unfair. It's racist. Do all that. And while you're doing all of that, we will get our people to the polls to follow the rules. How about that? And Susan Rice, head of domestic policy, what are you doing? You're doing nothing but creating utter chaos. And I hear the media saying, this is an example of competence. But no, this is an example of incompetence squared. Look at his cabinet members. Look at his Secretary of State. And all this stuff about, well, he's bringing America back. And then Janet Yellen talking about a global tax. Girl, that's not going anywhere. They have no jurisdiction over U.S. tax policy.
What city would Biden go to? What Democrat city would Biden go to for a good example of like?
He can't. And look at what happened in New York. Look at what happened in New York. What New York said was, we are not with all of this crime. That's why they elected who they did. Yet all of the progressives are saying, oh, what a shame. Okay, that's why y'all didn't win.
Let me ask this question, because you said, what is Susan Rice doing? And it made me think of what others are not doing. Chris, I'm going to ask you first, and go to Jeff and go to Kira, Kira, you brought up this point, which was very interesting. You go to Chicago, You don't have an Obama with you. You don't even need the former president. You don't need 44 there, but you got to take Michelle Robinson from the South Side. She wasn't there either. All right. You could have taken Michelle Robinson, Obama, and George W. Bush, and they could have had a hug fest on his 75th birthday. He wasn't there either. But guess what you don't see very much of, and it's very interesting because this is kind of how this played out in 2020. Joe Biden doesn't have a whole lot of black cover, Jeff. I mean, you don't see a lot of black people giving him cover. And then the people that were giving him cover, your Congressman Lewis's, he's passed on and gone. President Obama is retired. It ain't coming out of retirement anytime soon. Says something every now and then about Trump and some of the political stuff, but backs up out of it. You don't see a whole lot of black politicians or black media people with a lot of cachet catching Joe Biden's back right now, Jeff. And that's a problem for the Biden administration going through this summer of crime and going into 2022.
Yeah, but why would they? I mean, he made all these promises. He made all these overtures to the black community. He said, oh, you're the reason I got elected. I owe you, yada, yada, yada. And he hasn't produced anything. He'll come out like 5 minutes after he sits down in the Oval Office and say, I'm going to provide a pathway to citizenship for 11 million illegal immigrants. Oh, I'm going to champion this anti-Asian hate crime legislation. I'm going to do something specifically for these people. Black people, hold on. We'll get to you. We'll get to you. Yeah, he's not going to get to us. And a lot of black people are realizing that. And the ones who are honest about it, I see them on Twitter. They'll say, you know what? Biden promises stuff, and he's not delivering anything. Like, he just now met with Black Lives Matter like 5 minutes ago, and they've been trying to get at his table for ages. And even then, nothing really seems to have come from it. So I think it's pretty safe to say that the Biden administration is not going to do anything for the black community, and that's not their intention. And nobody should be surprised.
Kira, who could come to his rescue at this point in time? I mean,
Obama?
Aside from the president that's not going to come out and talk on these issues.
That's who that's who he needs. That is who he needs. There's nobody because of what Jeff just said, and also because I think among black voters Biden was well liked. That's why, like, the black voters in South Carolina saved him in the primaries. He has this like old school relationship with, like, political relationship with the black community, and when he's really on it, you can kind of see it, right? That affable nature. Like, he's really good at his job when he's got everything firing on all cylinders. But I do truly believe, and I have believed this since the Obama administration, that most black people in Washington, D.C. on the Hill don't like him. And I don't think the Obamas like him. I have never believed it. I could be wrong. I have no proof. That's just an opinion. But I watched their interactions. I see how Obama did not want to endorse Biden. Look at all of the crazy things he has said about black people as the president of the United States. Can you imagine what came out of his mouth in private to the Obamas every single day? Like, I'm sure that they do not have a lot of love for Biden, but that's what they need, because Obama he's been smart to stay out of stuff because he can maintain this reputation this legacy that he has of being very reasonable and approachable and personable. But honestly, I think that's the only thing that's going to save Biden's reputation at this point. I don't understand where else the help could come from.
If that's the case, Dr. M, it ain't coming. Well, I mean, I don't see President Obama coming out and helping Joe Biden at this point in time. There's not much to gain. And if you're a Democrat, and let's talk as political scientists for just a second. If you're a Democrat and you know that your best commodity at this point in time is Barack Obama, it's no longer Bill Clinton, would you waste the Barack Obama commodity on Joe Biden, or would you keep him in mothballs, waiting for 2024, waiting for 2026, or even 2022 with swing races to make sure that you keep the Senate? Why would you waste that cachet on a president that's going to continue to kind of do things like, I'm going to invite the Baltimore mayor to the White House on crime, and then I'm going to go to Chicago to talk to Lori Lightfoot, who has been literally doing bad PR moves for the last year now.
Well, and that's exactly right. Look, fun fact. When Obama was president, the Bidens rarely were in the residence, rarely invited into the residence. I mean, almost never. They had meetings in the Oval, all that, but when it came to that residence, no, y'all can't come up in here. So there isn't that warm relationship. And so at this point,
I like to picture Michelle at the door. Y'all. Nobody.
You can't come up in here now.
Y'all
got to go somewhere else.
That's right.
You ain't got to go home, but you ain't coming here.
You ain't coming in. So, so why would he waste any energy? And I think Kara's right. Obama's the only person who can help him, or Michelle, and they're not going to.
Maybe
maybe
Stacey Abrams?
No. Stacey got her own thing she needs to worry about. So
there's a magic Negro joke in there somewhere that I'm just going to leave the hell alone. And the person that probably would tell the magic Negro joke would probably be President Biden.
Yeah.
Something because and then you probably sniff your hair. But I digress.
He said something like the magic Negro when Obama first came on the scene. He said he was the first intelligent, eloquent, well-dressed.
He's articulate. He's clean. He's articulate.
Called him a magic Negro then.
The showering Negro type, the type that actually wash their face in the morning.
Well, and here's the other thing that Democrats are not paying attention to. All of this teaching of anti-racism, all of that stuff in public schools, Democrats have to be very careful about Virginia and the governor's race that's going in Virginia. They believe that it's going to be a cakewalk with Terry McAuliffe. Terry, at one point, criticized Norton strongly for the blackface thing, and then he took it back. They are completely missing the point here. Let them go ahead.
Speaking of people running for governor, and I will start with you, Mr. Texan, because look, man, you don't have your big hat on, you don't have any hat on, and you're sitting in Texas. You were going to be the person asked about this. So Alan West goes from being a congressman in Florida that I thought was going to eventually run for governor in Florida to only being a one-term governor, moves to Texas, runs for chair of the Texas GOP. He tells them, I'm going to be here for a while, then says psych, and is now running against an incumbent for governor. Thoughts on that, not just as a Texan, but as a black conservative that's watching one of the higher profile black conservatives run for one of the highest offices in a state that has launched people into the presidency before.
People on the right get mad at me for criticizing the right so often, but then you have people like this who just give me the fodder, and I have to say something. Like, I'm not trying to knock Alan West, but I'm sorry, I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I don't trust the motives. He may have pure motives, but him running for the Texas GOP, which was a very contentious election, and now I won't say controversial, but there were already people behind the scenes, just people that I've talked to who preferred the other guy. Alan West won, but even when he was serving, I mean, again, behind the scenes, I'm hearing people who are very much involved in Texas politics saying that, they're not sure if he's actually there because he actually wants to be Texas GOP chair. I've heard complaints about his leadership style. And again, I'm sure he's a decent guy, but the fact that he ran for that position and talked about how much he wanted to create change and take it into a different direction, then quits, and I don't even know if he even filled that position for even a year yet, then it becomes clear, or at least it creates the perception, that the only reason he ran for Texas GOP chair was to use it as a stepping stone to get to the governor's mansion. And it's not a very good look at all. I'm not questioning his conservative bona fides, but it just comes off like he's just in this for clout. It comes off almost like a grift. It may not be his intention, but that is the way it looked. And I don't think he really has a chance of beating Abbott, because guess who blessed Abbott? President Trump. And when Trump has the Midas touch when it comes to this stuff. So I think Abbott's going to remain in that position, even though there are a lot of people on the right here in Texas who aren't very happy with him at the moment.
And Chris, I'm going to go to you from Texas to Florida before I go back to Kira, because you know how Allen West went from being a Tea Party darling, the second leading fundraiser in the Congress, aside from Eric Cantor, during the one term he was in there. And so some would say, let's put it like that, some would say he so alienated the Florida GOP that they gerrymandered him out of his own congressional district and lost in 2012. How does that individual go to another state and then expect to run against an incumbent governor and win?
Well, see, and that was the problem with Allen West here in Florida. When he was the one-term congressman, there was so much friction behind the scenes. That was his chief of staff was not widely liked. It was just pure turmoil. But see, here it's not only Allen West. I think we have to think on the right about the people who we are putting forth, the Black people who we are putting forth for positions. And by that, I mean, there is a strong push to have Herschel Walker move from Texas to Georgia to run for the Senate. Guys, that is the easiest way to keep the current senator in office. Herschel has not lived in Georgia since forever. And then we have Vernon Jones running to unseat Kemp in. Guys, what are we doing? I mean, and I understand the push for diversity, but it is the same thing we criticize the left for doing. And I'm sorry, those candidates have no chance of winning. Georgia, if we put those two folks up in Georgia for governor, welcome Governor Stacey Abrams. And if we put up Herschel to run against the Reverend, we will not get that seat. We have to be more sophisticated about how we're doing these things. And to me, it's the same issue with Allen West in Texas. Guys, what are we doing? Why is he even doing that? I'm not questioning his motives because I don't know what they are, but I just don't think that's a good look. You tell the people of Texas, I'm going to be here. This is the position I want to be. And you pivot all of a sudden to the come on, it makes you look like an opportunist. It's not a good look.
Kara, will this at least
help? Herschel Walker too. Now I have a headache because I forgot about that, and you just brought it up again. We're just like, what are we doing?
You started out on his girl, and then you went to Herschel Walker. Jeff's gonna go drink before the end of this show. Kara, is this gonna help the Black conservative movement? Because I mean, Allen West is high profile. He is somebody that either people love or hate. He is not wishy-washy. This is not somebody you warm up to. Either you're like, yes, I love him, or you just push him aside. Is this something that could help Black conservatives and help, conservatives of color, the infamous COCs, if you will, not AOC, COCs, if you like how I did that. Or is this just something that we'll look at and be like, whatever, whatevs?
I echo all of you. Like, I literally have no idea what his intentions are.
Yeah.
I don't even have like a guess. Maybe he just wanted to move to Texas and he needs a job, and he just like keeps finding better ideas for jobs. I have no idea. It could be that. Maybe he just wants to be in politics and he's just like going wherever the grass looks green. I have no idea. But look, if Allen West wants to be a politician, great. Like, I think he's got a lot of great qualities, but he had the chance and then he quit. Like, go back to that. Like, go to Texas and get on your city council, or go that direction and help people trust you. I do think there's a place somewhere in the GOP for an Allen West, because he has a certain like gravitas. He has a certain style, like you mentioned, his fundraising acumen. That's something that could be very valuable. But as far as Alan West, like I've never even really thought of him as part of like a Black conservative movement. He is genuinely like kind of a politician. He's a military guy. So I don't think he necessarily fusses with all that stuff either. But he is like just kind of I don't know. I just kind of think of him as a politician. What it does for Black conservatives, I don't know, because there's two types of Black conservatives. There's Black conservatives who run for office, and there's Black conservatives like us who are pundits, and they're really not the same thing. And I'm not probably how to reconcile that is probably a whole other show, but I don't really consider Alan West when I think of the term Black conservative and what the movement will look like. I don't think of Alan West in that mix.
Yeah.
So number one, let's say this. You said Black conservatives like us. Kira, there's no Black conservative quite like you. That's first and foremost.
Thank you.
Second of all, you said that's for another show. Would that be fresh perspective? Would that other show? I was just about to give you a compliment, Mr. Charles. I was going to say, would that other show be a fresh perspective with Jeff Charles, or would that just be listen to yourself with Kira Davis? See, I was throwing you some love over there, Jeff, and no,
just you listen to yourself, get a fresh perspective.
I like that.
You're so clever.
I don't like sharing.
Well, of course you don't. You like bumping people out of their time slots. We won't even get into that again. He just got over that. And I'll tell you something else that Jeff just got over. Jeff just got over the fact that Dr. Metzler had a picture with Vanessa Williams. Was that before or after?
No, I'm not over that. Actually, I'm still mad at Dr. Metzler for that. Like that's just wrong. No, and to rub it in my face like that, like the cheek. I mean, it's just the cheek here. Like that's so mean.
Well,
it's like putting a raw steak in front of a starving Rottweiler. I mean, it's
jealousy is not a good look.
Yeah, well, so here was the thing, right? So Vanessa, this was at an art show.
Wait a minute, you get to call her by her first name?
Oh, Vanessa.
Not America. Not Vanessa. You just call her Vanessa? Yeah, Nessa and I.
Nessa, yeah.
Nessa.
Nessa.
So we were doing a private art auction in Miami. And so when the whole controversy came out about she was going to be singing Lift Every Voice and Sing, as part of the whole thing, people were like all over her. And like, how could she do that? She's trying to replace the national anthem, which simply wasn't true. And so I spoke to some folks and they said, well, could you, and that by the way, that photograph had appeared on page 5 of the Post, the New York Post. And so they said, could you just help us?
You can't even, your false humility does not work for you at all. At all.
I'm just saying.
So there I was with Nessa, and the New York Post has been following me around for 3 days, and we end up just snapping, a little pic here and there, and it's showed on page 5.
I'm just saying. So, it was just really to show support for what she was doing, because, I mean, that whole thing was just simply stupid. If what she said was, that's the only thing I'm going to sing on 4th of July, then that's different. That's not what she said. She hosted an entire show. And so it was just simply encouragement.
Well, let me ask this, Kara. Is this not out of the CRT playbook of we have to react to everything that is not what we grew up with, and therefore it's all, leftist, too much garbage, and that was the reaction to something like this? Because, I mean, look, didn't she sing America the Beautiful? Didn't she sing God Bless America? Didn't she sing other songs that are patriotic as well? But because we are so ginned up and primed now from the right to respond to anything that might look like, what we're hearing about CRT, and we had that conversation last week about what really is CRT versus what people think CRT is, that this just seems to be another mode of reactionary politics that just drives division without any common sense attached to it more often than not?
Yeah, it's interesting because I did an episode of Just Listen to Yourself on Juneteenth. And one of the things that, and I just reasoned through the holiday really quickly and explained why it's a great American holiday and people can embrace it. And I got a lot of responses from white listeners, white conservative listeners. And I took them really to heart because one of the things that quite a few people said was, I didn't really look at the issue that way until I heard you explain it. And then I realized, oh, this is a really great holiday and this is something that I can embrace. And more than one person admitted that they felt that they were being oversensitive about it because they were scared that it was a bit of a Trojan horse for Democrats to kind of come in and subvert traditional holidays. And so they were admitting that, yeah, they were a little bit erring on the side of panic because now it feels like everything is attacked. And frankly, while I certainly don't agree with that, that mindset, and I think it's totally unnecessary, and there are ways to step back and really embrace the things that are happening. For the most part, I don't blame people. I really don't blame people for being so afraid and for being so, because I just think people are, it's when you're a conservative, particularly a white conservative in this day and age, the messaging that you are awful for loving being American is coming at you from everywhere. You turn on the TV and it's your favorite TV character lecturing you about being white and conservative. You turn on football and it's your favorite football players lecturing you. You turn on basketball, or you go to a concert, your favorite artist, you turn on the late night talk shows. There's almost no place to go where people don't feel blamed for everything. So I do, while again, I don't endorse the attitude or condone it, I do get it. I do feel that people are a little hypersensitive because they're scared. It's all out of fear.
And Jeff, before we end the show, there's the argument that everybody's doing this a little too much. I mean, again, we've gotten to a point of time where if you say you're proud to be an Italian American and you have pride in that, we're getting to a point of time where people will look at you and be like, oh, you're proud to be an Italian American? You're proud to be a white American? Is that what you're saying? You're not proud to be around people of color? And there used to be a time, here in Pittsburgh, we literally would have Italian Day, Irish Day, German Day, African American Day. Everybody was allowed to be proud of their cultural heritage. And now, to Kira's point, we're getting to a point in time where we can't do any of that anymore. Very briefly. Jeff is agreeing with me. Yeah, that was.
The thing is, you guys are cutting out, so I can't. I didn't hear much of what you said, honestly.
No, we're gonna have to end the show, so I'm gonna tell you what to say.
Frozen again.
I'm gonna tell you what to say because we're gonna have to end the show. Simply say, Lenny, you're so right. You're brilliant, and I love listening to you talk on this show.
I feel like I would be selling my soul to the devil.
Not
I'm
today,
not Black South over here, okay?
That's
right.
Kira, what are you working on this week?
Well, tomorrow I'll be heading or today actually, I'll be heading to Sacramento to help kick off the campaign of Assemblyman Kevin Kiley, who announced he's running for governor here in California. And he's actually a candidate I'm excited about. I've been hearing rumors that one more bigger name might be getting in the race next week. But I think I've picked this guy. Kevin Kiley has stood up for Californians throughout this year of COVID lockdowns, and he's pro school choice. And so we're going to go cover that for Red State. And then, of course, I'm coming to Cleveland this month, July 24th, at the Go Mode Cafe, downtown Cleveland. Go to eventbrite.com, search Just Listen to Yourself, and get your tickets. They're going fast, and it's a small venue. So if you want to meet me and hang out and buy me a birthday drink, show up.
Dr. Metzler, speaking of people that drink, I've been saying I digress a lot. So, and you've been drinking underneath the table. So tell us what you're doing this week with Nessa and all your other celebrity friends.
Well, I can't yet say what I'll be doing in California, relative to elections in California, but I will soon be announcing that, and we'll talk about that later, Kara.
Oh, okay.
He is such a tease. Jeff, after you get done campaigning for future Governor West, what else will you be doing this upcoming week?
Well, I'm up in Dallas here for CPAC, so I'm going to be covering that all weekend. I'm going to try to figure out a way to get a better internet connection so I can do my live stream tomorrow. But I'm going to be writing articles, and I'm going to be doing some other live streams. It's going to be awesome. So check me out on redstate.com and also at my YouTube channel, A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles.
You notice Jeff could care less about his internet connection for red and black folks.
Right.
But for a fresh perspective, let me go. I gotta go find my hat. I gotta dress so nice to get a better internet connection.
It's not my fault this ghetto hotel doesn't have janky Wi-Fi.
Oh, we love Jeff, and we love Kira, and we love Dr. Metzler, and me, and whatever. I'm here.
We love
Anyway.
you too.
Yes, of course we do.
Says begrudgingly.
Yeah,
Jeff's still at not today, Satan, not today. But listen, folks, we always enjoy you joining us here every week on Red and Black. Continue to tune in, continue to spread the word. We're continuing to expand the platform. You can see all the different things that we are involved with across the country. This is the place to get opinions, insight, information, and laugh for an hour. In the meanwhile, thank you for joining us this week. We'll catch up to you again next week. And Kira will have something to announce, and Dr. Metzler will have something to announce, and Jeff will have a better internet connection, and I will not be wearing a tie. So there's things to look forward to this upcoming week. In the meanwhile, thank you so much for joining us once again. Make sure you go to eventbrite.com for Kira's event. Show up for her in Cleveland. You might see 3 other people there that look a lot like us as well. Exactly. In the meanwhile,
you'll get kicked out.
Well,
you're going to be on the streets. I don't know them.
No, exactly. Kira will be sitting there with her arm around Jeff saying, "Not today, Satan, not today." TCHP, take care and God bless y'all. Peace.